I want to thank each and every one of you for making time. I know it's Saturday, the year is on its end, everybody's tired. So thank you very much for making time this morning to come to IOL's workshop. Let's just quickly go through the package that was given to you. First of all, there's a program in there. There's a request for assistance form. And then we have the evaluation form that we need back from you before you leave today. Then we've got the tutor and moderator's information booklet that will be covered today. Then we've got an information booklet, and this is the information booklet that goes to the students. And I think it's quite important that each and every one of you just familiarize yourself with the content of this booklet. Because sometimes the students have questions that they ask you, and if you can answer them, it would be nice, because then they don't have to come back to us. But by all means, we're always there, and that's what we're there for, to assist students. So, but if you have the basic information, I think you will also understand IOL a little bit better if you have the knowledge in this book. And then you have the tutor's contract. This is the one that you need to sign before you leave, because we need a new contract every year. And this is important also for NQA, our regulator. And then you've got some paper to make notes on. So that is what's in your package. Currently, all our courses that we offer are accredited. We just introduced 2 new qualifications, which is the Certificate in Early Childhood Development and the Diploma in Early Childhood Development. Those courses we introduced, and we submitted them for accreditation. Now, we will only get our site visit, and the process of accreditation where NQA comes to us will be next year. But we introduced the courses because NQA requires us to have students in the program when they come for their site visit. So those are the 2 courses then that you will maybe find that, you know, we had these combination subjects that we explained to you where, and now I'm going to jump again, but where all, say for instance, we've got a lot of educational qualifications, and there is a subject like English and academic communication skills that you will find in all these qualifications. Now what we did was we combined it, all of them. So the students for DPPE, for DJPE, for ACSE, for ACPE, for all the teaching qualifications, write one examination question paper, because that subject have the same credits, it's got the same notional hours, it's got, everything is the same. So it's on the NQF framework, that subject is registered the same. So they are allowed to write the same. They do the same assignment, they write the same question papers, and they get the same presentation. So, and then what we did was, in the past, because we started and we developed the qualification each year, we rewrote the book every year. And then when we were done, we combined them. So now we've got the problem where students sit with, for every course, they sit with a different study guide. And this is, we are now in the process of getting these, we send out one guide now, we combined the guides, and we send out one guide to all these students. But now the old students sit with different study guides. And this is where we asked you to please make sure that you have a copy of each one of the study guides. So if you do, I'm just using English and academic communication skills again as an example. So if you're going to set and mark, if you're the tutor for that and the moderator for that subject, you must make sure that you have all the study guides. And then you must make sure that if you ask a question, that question must appear in each and every one of those study guides. Now you will say, but it's not always that easy. So what we said, and we had a workshop earlier this year, and what we said was, you know, there is certain things that's the same. Where it's not the same, then you should give them option questions. So you give say at question 3, you will have an optional question, and then you will have one out of the DPP ebook and one out of the DJP ebook, for instance. And then, I mean, if a DPPE student answered the DJPE question, it's fine. It's not a problem. They choose what they want to answer. So that is the combined subjects. We received accreditation for our Diploma in Education, which is a postgraduate degree diploma. That is for students that already have a degree. They've done 2 of the school subjects on university level, and then they can do the DE to do a teaching qualification so that they can go and teach with their BEC degree or with the BA degree or with whatever they have. Some of the students doesn't have 2 school subjects. What we do then is we take the school subjects from our diploma, our initial diploma in secondary education, and they can do 1 subject they're allowed to do with us. But they need to have at least one subject, school subject, in their previous degree. So those 2, the initial diploma in secondary education and the diploma in education, those 2 qualifications was accredited this year. And basically IOL now has, like I said actually in the previous workshop already, we have, when it comes to teaching qualification, there's nothing IOL cannot offer for you. We've got initial diplomas and upgrades in primary, junior and senior primary. We've got initial diplomas, and we even have a degree in secondary, senior primary education, and then we've got the secondary qualifications that we introduced this year, which is a diploma in secondary education. So it's an initial diploma. So a student that has a grade 12 certificate, they can do this qualification, and after that they can go and teach. We also launched our IOL VTC this week because we received our registration with NTA for our vocational training center, and we introduced level 1 and 2 bricklaying and plastering and plumbing and pipe fitting. We've got a center as you go to Elisenheim, on that bridge, you just turn to the other side and our vocational center sits there. And it's very nice. If you want to go and see sometime, just let us know and we'll go and show you. We're very proud of that. In the previous workshop, we handed out, this is not in your package, but this is a results statistic of our results for the last examination, which is August examination. So it tells you, and this you can get from your course coordinator, they can mail it to you. So basically what it tells you is your subject. It gives you all the subjects that we have on offer, and it gives you the results. So it tells you, okay, from so many students got a mark between 1 and 6, so many between 7 and 11, 12 and 16, and then at the end, you can actually see how many students sat for this examination, how many of those students failed the examination, and how many students passed the examination. We've got the student portal, which you will find in the welcoming booklet. Now on the student portal, we can load anything. So if you want to make notes, if you want to make extra presentations, if you want to, you can do whatever you want to assist the students. So maybe you find you already have all the reports that we will also discuss a little bit later. But if there's anything, any new initiative that you want to do, there's nothing that we cannot accommodate. So if you see that your failure rate is very high, you will have to go and look where the students have problems, and then we need to give them a little bit of extra assistance. Our new study guides, they're beautiful. They've got a lot of color, a lot of pictures. They've got a study planner. So I think we also tried to make it more interactive for the students, more interesting. But please make sure that you all have all the old study guides and that you have this new study guide. So if you don't have the new study guide for your subject, please just request it from your course coordinator. We are still busy with the layout of some of these study guides. We started with the ones that appears in most subjects. So like I'm just thinking about the advanced certificate in secondary education. There's very few students in that course, and the electives, like the school subjects, there might even only be 10 or 20 students in a subject like that. So then we will do those study guides last. So we started where we've got the most students. So if you've got a subject that appears in most of the qualifications, then your guide will be laid out already. So make sure that you get that study guide. I think we want to be done with the study guides, or with the old study guides. We want them to phase out by the end of 2020. So by the beginning of 2021, that is when everybody will have the same study guide, and you won't have to set question papers from different study guides anymore. If anybody has anything to add or anybody has any questions, please feel free to. This is an open discussion. It might not look that way now, but it is. So if you've got any questions or you want to say anything, add anything, we've got tutors that's been with us for years, so that's got a lot of experience. So maybe if I forget something or you can think of something that can add to what I say, please, 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 you're welcome to just chip in. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you just very quickly about the exam bookings. What we did was we implemented exam bookings this year. Now, what happened in the past was that we had 80,000 subjects for which students qualified, because at IOL you can submit your assignment now in January, and then you are allowed to only go and sit for the exam in the next year, because we work with working adults. So maybe your work requires you to go to somewhere and you're not available for the examination. So IOL is a distance education institution, so you can plan your studies. So for a course that's 3 years, we give you 6 years to help you, because distance education is not easy. It's not easy to study, because you work and you must study on the side. So this is now what happened in the past. We had 80,000 subjects for which students qualified, but not even half of those students go and sit for the examination. So we had to prepare those 80,000 question papers, and then 30,000 will come and sit, or 35,000 will come and sit for the examination. So what we introduced was a booking system. So students, once we release the results for the assignments, all the students that qualify for a subject, they will get a SMS to say they need to go and book on their student portal. So then when they open their student portal, there's a booking button, and they go on there, and then all their subjects for which they qualify will be available for them there, with the time and the date that they go and sit for the examination. So they go and book then. So they say, okay, I only want to go and write 3 out of the 8 subjects that I qualify for, because that is what I can cope with. So for each examination, you've got 2 exam credits. So you will lose the examination. If you don't book, if you qualify and you don't book, you won't lose an exam credit. Now, exam credit works like that. If you book and you don't go and write, you will lose the credit, because we will prepare for you. We will make sure there is an invigilator, there is a head of center, there is a venue, there is a question paper for you. So if you book twice and you don't go and write, you'll have to pay the next time you want to go and sit. And it's the same with if you fail. If you fail the first time, then you will lose the 1 credit, but you will be allowed another free opportunity. But if you fail twice, or if you don't go and sit for the examination and the next time you fail, then you're going to have to pay for that subject again. Now, just another thing that I'm thinking about now is we're going to talk about, and Eddie will also touch on that, we're going to talk about how the assignment will prepare you for the examination. Now, the thing is, students will submit the assignment in 2018, and they'll only go and write examination in 2019, and that will be a problem because we're going to set the assignment to prepare them for the exam. So what IOL is doing now, we give the students the opportunity to go and resubmit the 2019 assignment, but they don't have to. It's not compulsory. So we send them an SMS to say, it's important when you prepare for the examination, just like you use the presentation, you must also make sure that you use the assignment to prepare for the examination. And we will get to that now. I'm going to touch on it, and Eddie will go through it in detail. But it's also important that you maybe, if a student talk to you, communicate with you, just also from your side, motivate the student to either redo the assignment or to just make sure that when they prepare for the examination, that they use the 2019 assignment. I'm going to discuss the relationship between the assignment and the 3 question papers and the presentation. Now, I know some of you have heard this many times, but I am going to, once again, I think this is the most important point today here. If this is the only thing you hear, then that will be great. When we talk about the assignment, the 3 question papers, which is the May examination, the August examination, and the supplementary exam, and then the presentation. So what we want for next year, look, this year it's fine. Our assignment is set, our question papers are set, and our presentations are almost done, recorded. For next year, we're going to make the due date for the question papers the same date as the assignment. And your presentation is also going to be due on that date. Reason being, we want you guys to go and sit over a week or a weekend or a day and set all of them together. So we want you to set your assignment and then take a break, have a coffee, and then you go and you set your 3 question papers. Because what needs to happen is that assignment needs to be split amongst the 3 question papers. So at least 30% of the assignment needs to be in the question paper. Now, like I mentioned before, say for instance, I'm just going to take a subject like a curriculum studies. If you take a subject like curriculum studies, obviously it's important to know what a curriculum is. It's important to know what a syllabus is. There's certain things from a subject that's important, and that may appear in all 3 question papers. But just rephrase your question maybe a little bit. So you can have the same question that you think is important and that everybody should know. You can have in all 3 question papers. But we want you to at least take the assignment and split the questions into the 3 question papers. And then you must keep in mind the levels, which we will also touch on later. It doesn't help you putting all the easy questions from the assignment in one paper. You must also split the levels amongst your question papers. Then, once you're done with that, you need to go and complete all 3 question papers, and then you need to compile one presentation for all 3 of these question papers. We don't want to tell the students what they need to go and learn. And then what I experienced myself was that from the August examination, you've got 80% on your 80% of the questions or of the outcomes are on your presentation. But then only 20% of the April exam was on there, and of the supplementary exam there was nothing. And I also want to touch on the supplementary exam. It's very important that the supplementary exam is not just afgewaterde, hoe sê mense, add on to the other question papers. It must be exactly the same standard. It must cover the same levels, the same, because we experience this, that, you know, there's very, very few students that actually goes and sit for the supplementary exam. But they need to have exactly the same quality as all the other students. So that is very important when it comes to the assignment, the question papers, and the presentation. It's important that you don't just take the outcomes from your study guide and put them on your presentation. And it's also important that your presentation for this year doesn't look the same as the presentation for last year. Because it's impossible. I mean, there's things that you had to pick up that students, you know, didn't know, that you'll have to cover in your presentation. I mean, your question papers are going to differ, maybe not a lot, but you should have learned something from your marking and from, you know, from the presentation and from what students told you in the last year. So you need to adjust your presentation to accommodate all that. Okay, then I want to go to the comments on the assignments. Now, you know, we have NQA as our regulators, and a lot of the things that we implemented over the last few years is things that came from NQA reports. So they will make recommendations and requirements to IOL after the site visit, and they will tell us we have to implement, like the SRC that we implemented was one of their suggestions. You know, inductions came mostly from them. So there's a lot of things that we learn from NQA, and that NQA, when they come for a site visit, they want to see it because it's part of the quality assurance. And the comments on the assignments was one of them. Comments on assignments is extremely important. What NQA does, they call a lot of students. So when they come for this site visit, we have to have students available. Just like some of you might know, they also speak to the tutor. And this is what the students complained about. They said they get their assignments back. Look, on the question paper, you don't have to make any comments because they don't get those back. But on an assignment, it's very important that you tell them what they did wrong. Where did they go wrong? Because, and like I explained before, you need to be specific if it's a specific comment to that student. If there's a general problem, if most of the students get one thing wrong, then you need to put it in your assignment report, which we will discuss just now. But if it's specific to the student, you need to make that comment on the assignment for that student. Because what the students does, when they get their assignments back, they come to us and they say, but now I only got 60%, but what did I do wrong? And if they don't know what they did wrong in the assignment, how would they know what to fix in the examination? You need to assist them and guide them into the right direction. Okay, so that's the comment on the assignments. Even if a student got 80% or 90%, just tell him, good work. Maybe your reference was a problem. For each and every student, just make at least one comment. Okay, then we go on to the memorandums. Now, a memorandum is probably the most important document in the setting of a question paper. Why is that? Because in a subject, I'm just going to use English and academic communication skills again as an example. There's probably 2,000 students that will go and write English and academic communication skills. Now, because we've got limited time to mark those papers, we might have a tutor and a marker that will mark that subject. Or maybe something happens to you, you need to go outside the country or you're not here, and somebody else needs to mark your subject. Now, you must not just set that memorandum for yourself. You must set that memorandum for anybody that needs to mark that question paper. So it's very important that when you set a memorandum, you make sure that you indicate where in the study guides these answers are, first of all. So you're going to say, okay, question 1 I got from Unit 1 of the DJPE book on page 25. But for DPPE,
the pages in the study guide and that on the Kindle is not the same. So yeah, we use like number 3.2, but not the page, because that differs when you tell the other person to go look and he's got a Kindle or you've got a study guide, there's a difference in page number.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that. Yes, Brenda.
But I don't think the tutors are using the Kindle. Yes. So I think the page numbers are okay for the memo, but if you refer to page numbers in your presentation, then it might be a problem if the students are using the Kindle.
But to make provision for all scenarios, let's put in as much information as we can on that. So we will put in for this subject, this unit, this number 2.1, this page, so that if the page doesn't correspond, then at least you can go and look at the number. So, and you need to, if there's 4 study guides with 4 different pages, 4 different units, 4 different sections, then you need to go and indicate that. So that if that person that did not set the question paper wants to go and see what was written there, then they can. They can refer back to the book and see if they can't find maybe 1 or 2 more points. They might see that most students have this, but it's not in the memo. Then they can go and look in the book whether that was covered. That's exactly the reason why we stopped doing presentations for specific question papers, because it was so narrow, and if the student only goes and learns those few points on that presentation, he doesn't have the knowledge to actually be a teacher for that subject, or and that was our biggest concern, and that is why we did this, why we took all 3 question papers and put it into one presentation. There shouldn't be page numbers, but then there should also not be specific outcomes, because the outcomes the student can get in their study guides. They can get it there, they can get it in their syllabus, they can get it in the course outline. So we don't want to repeat it again. What's on your presentation is what's important for the examination. First of all, and Eddie you're going to touch on that, so he will show you what is important to be on your presentation. No outcomes. Okay, so thank you very much. That's very important that you don't put, we're currently talking about the memorandum. So what's on the memorandum, please, should never be on the presentation. So you're also not going to give them a question and give them the answers to that. You're going to guide them to, yes, you can maybe say in which unit it is. I can use this very simple example, and this is maybe I'm going maybe too deep into specifics, but to give you an example, on a presentation that I saw, there was a point that said what's important is the purpose of assessment. But then in the question paper, okay, and then in the August question paper, because I actually went and I looked at all of them, in the August examination question paper, the tutor asked about, say for instance, the purpose of assessment. But then in the November exam, she asked, or he asked, for the principles of assessment. And then in the April-May, she asked about the purpose of evaluation. Now you get principles and purpose of assessment. You get principles and purpose of assessment. So that's 4 things to cover, but she only put put on one, but she covered. And that is exactly, that's a great example of what you need to do when you broaden the scope. So you don't have to ask all 4 of them, but to broaden it, and I mean it's 10 points for each. So then he's got the whole view of assessment and evaluation. So that's what you do then. You maybe only ask 2 of them, but you tell the student, you need to know the principles and the purposes of assessment and evaluation. Then the student will have a broader, and you will only cover some of that. Okay. So we get back to the memorandum. So first of we've discussed that you need to indicate. Now marks are also allocated 1 mark for 1 fact. So you're not going to give half marks, and you're not going to give 2 marks for 1 fact. So it's a mark per fact. Now, sometimes there's the higher level thinking in this, in your question, because there needs to be level 3 questions. And then, you know, you're going to give marks for students' own opinions. And obviously, it needs to be something that makes sense. It doesn't help a student give his opinion and it doesn't make sense. But there, you can allocate marks for own initiatives and own ideas and own thinking. Then in questions that involves verbs that requires thinking on a higher level, extra marks are allocated to thinking on a higher level. That is evident. Okay, so I think when it comes to the memorandum, it's important that if there's 20 facts and you only ask 5 of them, you need to indicate all 20 on your memorandum, because in the end of the day, and rather too much information than too little. And if you can think of own ideas that the student could maybe put in there, and then also indicate that on the memorandum, so that the next one that marks have idea. And then if there's somebody that marks somebody else's question paper or assignment, then please also, it's important that you put down your own ideas. So you mustn't just, obviously we must mark strictly according to the memo, but when it comes to higher thinking, then it's not going to be strictly the memorandum. Then own ideas will also count. Tutor markers and moderators meetings. I think I've said this from the first workshop that we had. It is important, since we had markers and moderators and not only a tutor per subject, but a tutor and a marker. It is important, and the Ministry of Education also does that. It's important for the people that's going to mark one question paper to get together. It doesn't have to be long. Maybe once the question paper is available, you just come together and you just discuss the question paper, so that you can hear what the other person think about this, so that you can all be on the same page. Because, you know, when we get back those moderators' reports, after the 10% was moderated, because 10% of our question papers gets moderated, you know, there's a big difference between, or even where we have 2 markers, there's a big difference between the marks the one tutor or the tutor gave and the marks that the marker give. And then also when we get the moderators' reports back, there's sometimes huge differences between what the tutor gave and what the moderator gave. And we're going to focus on that much more in the coming year. I think we've got all our systems and stuff in place now. So I think it's just going to be, this is going to be our focus, to get everybody on the same page. To make sure that when you also get your report back from the moderator. But I think it's important that our moderators, even after the marking, get together with the tutors. Because the thing is, these discussions never happen. So you don't know where you make your mistakes. And sometimes that report is so broad that you don't know. But we're also going to get to that just now. And I'm going to wrap up now very quickly. due dates is going to be discussed a little bit later in more detail, and I just want to say due dates is extremely important, and all I want to say is that, you know, we don't always think about IOL and all the things that needs to be to happen in the back end. So if we tell you we need this in 2 weeks or in 1 week, then you need to take what you can, what you will be able to mark, and let us give the other papers to whoever can mark it. And we find it more often that tutors do that, and we want to thank you for that. But I mean, if you can mark all 1,000, then by all means, we will give you all 1,000. But if you can't, then let's, because if we say this is our due date, we've got a program of activity that is also in that booklet that will also be discussed with you. So if we say this date, then we mean this date, because we need to do the rollover, the mark adjustment, everything that also takes, we need to capture marks. There's so many things that needs to happen behind the scene that also takes a week. So, and we need to release by the results by a certain date for the next date to be met, basically. Okay, so but due dates will be discussed with you. There's due dates in your booklet that they will discuss in detail with you. Okay, and then the welcoming booklet I already showed you, and somebody's going to go through that booklet with you. And then I can just, there's a few student concerns, and we find that it happens less and less. So I want to thank you all. I mean, if we looked at the complaints in the past and we look at what we get now, there's a big difference, and we can see our students are getting more and more happy. So I want to thank you for that, really. It's only you that can make that difference. Because students complained about presentations that was misleading. Now, I experienced that too. So it is important that you don't mislead a student. So, and that is, I think I covered everything that can be misleading. Where I said that, you know, I have 80% of one question paper and only 20 or 10% of the other question paper. You must make sure that every student that goes and writes any of the question papers have the same advantages. Tutors doesn't pick up their phones. Now, it is communicated, and even in the welcoming booklet, it's communicated to the students, and we tell them, you can only phone a tutor between 6 and 8 in the evening. And the other thing is we encourage them to rather send a mail or a WhatsApp so that the tutor can get back to them. But you know, and that is also why we stopped students. We don't allow students to phone tutors the day before the examination anymore. That's not allowed, and you don't have to pick up your phone the day before the examination, because it seems like the students doesn't plan and then they blame it on the tutors. But it is very important that you make sure that if a student sent you a mail or sent you a WhatsApp, if you can't get back to them that evening, please just drop them a SMS and say, I noticed your WhatsApp, I will get back to you soon. So that they know that you've received it and you are looking into it. Because, you know, if they don't get immediate answer, they complain. And we actually, we created a SMS line for students where they can send any complaints to us. So we will then just forward that complaint to you so that you can make sure that it's handled. Then another concern was that there's not enough space on the examination question paper to write all the facts. That's the clever ones, or the ones that chorrel the most. They don't have enough space on the question papers. So you must just make sure that we set 2 lines,
at least 2 lines per mark.
2 lines per mark. So if you ask a 5-point question, you're going to give him 10 lines. But then, I mean, if you ask a 20-mark question, I think you will know where to draw the line. 40 lines might be a little bit too much. But but just make sure you give them enough space, and then obviously there will be extra space at the end of the paper which they can. But I think it's always, you know, a student is so scared that the tutor might not see that there's anything else. So rather give them enough space to write on.